All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig in a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er look ahead to training camp. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig in a Pickle. Check them out. 2 locations. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in Marin County, and they're open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. All right. Well, now we're at that point in the calendar where there's a chance the 49ers may make a significant addition in free agency still. They may add a significant player, maybe a tackle, maybe an edge rusher, probably one of those 2 spots if they were going to add somebody. But for the most part, we have a really good idea on what the roster is going to look like. And with that being said, let's look ahead to this summer because I think this may be one of the more exciting summers we've seen in quite a while as far as training camp battles that we're going to see in Santa Clara and in the preseason. All right, let's start right at quarterback. Brock Purdy's hurt. We don't know when he's coming back. He's the number 1 quarterback. Brandon Allen has been signed as the number 4 quarterback. So the big battle in camp is going to be who's number 2 and who's number 3. Sam Darnold against Trey Lance, and who knows? Both guys picked 3rd overall. I'd probably lean towards Trey Lance just because I think Lance has got better talent. I think he's a better prospect than Sam Darnold. But man, there's an awful lot of indications that Sam Darnold is going to be really solid in this offense, and there's a lot of people that feel like he's going to be the starter week 1 if Brock Purdy can't go. So that, to me, is battle number 1, and we are going to be talking about that literally every single day throughout July and August. Sam Darnold, Trey Lance, Trey or Sam or Trey, Darnold or Lance. So get ready for it. Get ready for it. That's going to be the number 1 battle of training camp. All right, let's get to number 2. Running back. There's going to be a battle here. The 49ers typically keep 5 running backs. You got Christian McCaffrey. That's 1. Elijah Mitchell. That's 2. Your Pro Bowl fullback, Kyle Juszczyk. That's 3. So what's left? You got 2 spots available, and you have a bunch of competition for it. It's going to be Jordan Mason, Ty Davis-Price, the 2 rookies from last year, now in year 2. Mason went undrafted, but he was probably the more impressive of the 2, to be honest. Between him and Price, probably Mason. And then you have this year's 2 undrafted rookies, running backs. Ronald Awatt from UTEP, who I really like his film. He looks terrific. And then Kalen Laburn from Marshall, one of the more productive running backs in college football. And coming off a year where he was a bell cow back at Marshall. He carried 300-plus times. Also, if you want to go way back, Kalen Laburn was a 5-star recruit at Florida State. So once upon a time, Laburn was supposed to be really, really good. And Ronald Awatt has great measurables. I loved his film. Ty Davis-Price showed some good things last year. And Jordan Mason, I think, even showed even more than he did. So you got those 4 guys. And then don't forget Jack Coletto, the jack-of-all-trades special teamer. I'm a fullback, I'm a tight end, I'm a quarterback, I'm a linebacker, I'm a special teamer. He's going to be in the mix. So you essentially have 5 guys there, Mason, TDP, Awatt, Laburn, and Coletto, battling for 2 spots. McCaffrey, Mitchell, and Juszczyk, let's say, get the other 3. And you got those 5 guys competing for 2 spots. I mean, that's going to be a battle. I would probably lean right now to Jordan Mason and Ronald Awatt to beat out Ty Davis-Price and Kalen Laburn. But there may be a trade here because I think Ty Davis-Price might be a little bit too good of a player to trade. And it wouldn't surprise me if all of these guys look good. I really would not be surprised. I think all those guys are good backs. Laburn is productive as heck. TDP is 220 with good motor, good wheels, I should say. Jordan Mason's 240 and kind of a poor man's Marshawn Lynch. Ronald Awatt's got a lot of speed and explosiveness. He's got great cutting ability. Coletto's a jack of all trades. Can be very popular, you would think, with the coaches. So those are 5 guys, and 3 of them are going to get cut most likely, and 2 of them are going to wind up making the team. If I had to pick it, I'd probably guess Jordan Mason and Ronald Awatt make it, and the other guys get cut, traded, or practice squad. But the running back depth and the running back competition this summer is going to be good. All right, let's talk about the tight ends. To me, obviously, the only thing that's set here is that George Kittle's your number one guy. Then it's Ross Dwelley and Charlie Warner, the incumbents, against Braden Willis and Cameron Latou. And after reading Scott McLuhan's assessment of Latou, that he sees, high-end athleticism, a basketball-type player that needs more reps and more growth, I think Latou, especially as a third-round pick, is going to make the team. So, in reality, what it probably is, Kittle's on there, Latou's on there. So it's a battle between Charlie Warner, Ross Dwelley, and Braden Willis for one spot, maybe two. And I'll say this, I think there's a very good chance that the rookies beat out the incumbents. I would not be surprised if the Niners went with three tight ends and went with George Kittle and then Latou and Braden Willis and wound up cutting Ross Dwelley and Charlie Warner. Wouldn't surprise me at all. So that's going to be a juicy competition. Do you go with the youth or you go with the incumbents? And do you go with three tight ends or do you go with four? So I think that's a real battle. All right, let's jump to wide receiver where it's even, the battle could be even more intense. So you're probably going to keep 5 wide receivers. Now, you could keep 6. Your 5 are probably Debo, Ayuk, Juwan Jennings. Last year, you had Danny Gray and Ray McLeod. Those were your 5 guys. This year, there's more depth and there's more choices. Personally, if you said to me, how do I see the wide receivers? I think Debo's your 1, Ayuk's your 2, Jennings is your 3. They're all on there. I say Danny Gray's on there as well. Why? Because, Kyle Shanahan's a play caller. Having deep speed is a major, major factor, and nobody else provides that. There's no other receiver that really provides the deep speed that Danny Gray does. And Danny Gray is a better receiver than what we saw last year. He was really good at SMU. He's got ball skills. He's not just a sprinter. So I think Debo, Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, and Danny Gray are all going to make it. That means you've got 6 wide receivers battling for 1 or 2 spots. And those wide receivers will be Tay Martin, Chris Conley, Ray McLeod, Ronnie Bell, Willie Snead, and Isaiah Winstead. And then you've got some camp bodies. I think Shea Wyatt, Tyron Johnson, Daz Newsome. I kind of think they're more in the, not to insult them in any way, but I think they're more in the camp body mold than really in the competition. But I would say Debo, Ayuk, Jennings, and Gray make it. And then I will go with Tay Martin and Ray McLeod to beat out Chris Conley, Ronnie Bell, Willie Snead, and Isaiah Winstead. Winstead's kind of the wild card factor. I think, if you said to me, how's it going to shake out? I would say Debo, Ayuk, Jennings, Gray, Ray McLeod. And then that final spot is going to be between, it's like the possession receiver, the continuity receiver. Tay Martin, big receiver, 6'3", huge catch radius, but he's got to do it this summer. It's go time for Tay. Big play Tay. Isaiah Winstead runs 4.7, which is slow, but looking at his stop and start ability and his agility and his ability to quickness and that kind of thing, he looks really, really exciting. So he's going to be heard from. Then you got Willie Snead and Ronnie Bell. Those guys are more possession guys. Conley is not a possession guy. He's got speed and size, so he's in the mix there as well. So I don't know. I mean, personally, I think if you said what's it going to come down to, I say it's going to be Debo, Ayuk, Jennings, and Danny Gray. Those 4. I think the 5th guy is probably going to be Ray McLeod. And then it comes down to, do they keep 6? And if they do, it's a battle between Tay Martin, Chris Conley, and Isaiah Winstead. If they bring in that Jadakiss Bonds, I think he could impact that situation as well. I think Willie Snead and Ronnie Bell and Conley probably are going to be on the outside looking in. I'd probably lean towards Ray McLeod and Tay Martin, but I think Tay Martin's going to get challenged by Isaiah Winstead, and that could be a really, really interesting battle this summer as well. All right, let's jump to the offensive line. The 49ers, I think, really fortified nicely on the offensive line. I know a lot of people were very concerned about the offensive line. I'm just not. Trent Williams is your left tackle. Banks is your left guard. Brendel was a Pro Bowl alternate. He's your center. Spencer Burford was a pleasant surprise last year at right guard. Prototypical size, arm length, athleticism, intelligence. I mean, Burford is a very exciting prospect. You got Colton McKivitz at right tackle right now. A lot of people were very concerned about that, but I think McKivitz is a good player. So you got 5 guys right there as your starters. Most teams take 8, sometimes 9. So you got 3 or 4 backups. And Nick Zakelj, John Feliciano, who's a veteran guard and / center. Joey Fisher, the undrafted kid they gave guaranteed $130,000 to. They're all, I think, in the mix. So that's 8 right there. So that means that you've got a number of guys here, but I would say Jalen Moore, Jason Poe, the veteran Matt Pryor, and the kid from Hawaii, Ilham Manning. I think those 4 guys are really competing for one spot. And if you had to guess, to me, it would be a tackle spot, and so it might come down to Pryor versus Moore. So that's kind of how I see the offensive line. If you go with 8, Zakelj, Feliciano, I think Joey Fisher. Who knows? Maybe Jalen Moore. But if you go with 9, I think you'll probably want one more tackle, and then it's a battle of, would you rather have Jalen Moore or would you rather have Matt Pryor? Moore's been in-house. Pryor's a little bit older. Pryor's got better size, 6'7", 330. I think that's how the offensive line is crystallized as far as the competition there. So, that's on the offensive side of the ball. Now, obviously, there's going to be a great competition between Zane Gonzalez and Jake Moody for the number 1 place kicker job. I think that's going to be an incredible competition. You get the veteran, and then you get a highly rated rookie, and all eyes will be on these guys in the preseason for sure. Let's talk about the defensive line. Now, I expect they're going to go get an edge rusher. But if they don't, this is what they're looking at. Probably going to take 10, maybe 11 defensive linemen. Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, Drake Jackson. That's your first team defensive line. You got 4 there. Your second team defensive line would probably be Austin Bryant and Cleveland Farrell on the ends. Kevin Givens, Javon Kinlaw inside. So that's 8 players right there. So then you got Robert Beal, the rookie out of Georgia, who he runs 4.4 off the edge. Great athlete. Are you going to cut him? Probably not. So that's the 9th player. Kalia Davis is a tremendous athlete and moves exceptionally well. So I think he makes it. So that's 10 right there. And where does that leave T.Y. McGill? Where does that leave Kerry Hyder, Alex Barrett? What if our guy Spencer Wagee shows up and he had an incredible get off. He's 300 pounds. I think there's a very good chance Wagee makes the team. And then what? So if they get to camp and Wagee looks like a player and Kalia Davis is playing well, I think there's a very good chance Javon Kinlaw gets traded or cut. It just seems like that's what I see there. Now, the other wrinkle in this is, you've got cap room. You can go sign a Yannick Ngakoue, Leonard Floyd. Floyd would be my first choice. And if you add Leonard Floyd, then maybe somebody else is getting cut. So it's a little bit of a fluid situation. But I would say Bosa, Hargrave, Armstead, Jackson, Bryant, Givens, Kinlaw, Farrell, those are your top 8. And then that means you got 6 defensive linemen really for 2 spots. And those 6 D linemen are Robert Beal, Kalia Davis, T.Y. McGill, Kerry Hyder, Alex Barrett, and Spencer Wagee. And those are some good players there. I mean, Barrett was practice squad, but Hyder is a favorite of Kocurek. McGill is a gap penetrator, one gap penetrator. So's Kalia Davis. I think Davis is even better, but McGill's older and a little bit more savvy, a little bit more seen it all. Beal is an edge rusher with tons of talent, and then to me, I'm interested to see where does Spencer Wagee play? Does he play defensive end? Does he play defensive tackle? Is he a combo? So that's going to be intense. That's going to be a great competition. Now let's jump to linebacker, where I think the competition's the most severe. You're probably going to keep 6. You got Greenlaw, Fred Warner. I think Marcelino McCrary-Ball absolutely steps up. He was phenomenal in the preseason last year. I think those are your top 3 guys. Then you've got Curtis Robinson, Oren Burks, and Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. So you could go with those 3 starters and then those 3 special teamers if you wanted. But then what about the rookies? You just drafted D. Winters, and people are comparing him to Greenlaw, and I think he's got a lot of potential. You're not cutting him. Jalen Graham, Scott McLuhan just hailed Graham as a steal, and I think he's right. So I think Graham makes it. And then you got this kid, Mariano Sori-Marin, who's obviously really smart and has been really productive. So to me, Greenlaw, Warner, and McCrary-Ball for sure make it, and so does Winters. So that's 4. And that means that you can have 2 out of the 2 rookies, Jalen Graham, Mariano Sori-Marin, and the 3 special teamers, Curtis Robinson, Oren Burks, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. So that's going to be tough. That is going to be a tough cut down. I don't think they're going to cut Graham, but, man, those special teams linebackers they have are all really good special teams linebackers. You'd hate to, especially since Greenlaw and Warner are going to get the lion's share of the snaps at those stack backer spots. Can they go with Marcelino and Winters and Graham? I don't know. They may, one of those guys is going to have to really show they can play special teams. Otherwise, Burks and Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles and Robinson are going to take those spots. So that's going to be a competition. I mean, that's 3 set linebackers, and that means you've got 6 players competing for 3 spots at linebacker. That's going to be an intense situation. And if you're a good pro personnel director, man, you've got the Niner linebacker situation circled, because you can count like everybody else, and they're going to have to cut Curtis Robinson most likely. They're going to have to cut they may cut Jalen Graham, and these guys can play in the league. And I think Curtis Robinson could be an outstanding special teamer. So that's a tough one. Okay, let's get to safety. Even though you would think that this is a wide open spot, I actually think this is one of the most decided set areas, barring injury, going into training camp. The Niners are going to go with Talanoa Hufanga, Tayshaun Gibson, Jair Brown, and George Odom. Those are going to be their safeties. And the other guys, Taylor Hawkins, Avery Young, Quantrez Knight, who I love. Quantrez Knight's a really good football player. Those guys are not just camp bodies, but I don't think realistically any of them can make it unless Quantrez shows that he can play the corner, or somebody just has an unbelievable preseason, or there's an injury. Odom's a Pro Bowl caliber special teamer. Gibson's the veteran who's going to get everybody lined up. Jair Brown is your highest pick this year. He's the future. Hufanga is the closest thing you have to a star at the position. So that's the way it's going to shake out. Hufanga, Brown, Gibson, and Odom, barring an injury. And then let's finish up with the corners. You never can have enough corner depth, and the Niners are pretty well fortified now coming out of the draft. You got Mooney Ward, Diamador Lenore, Darrell Luter Jr., Isaiah Oliver, Miles Hartsfield, Samuel Womack. I really like Deshaun Jameson out of Texas. You still got Ambry Thomas. So, that's 8 right there. And you're not going with 8 corners. I would say the guys who are set to make it for sure are going to be Mooney Ward, Lenore, Isaiah Oliver, and Samuel Womack. Those 4 guys are going to make it. And you're probably going to go with 5 corners, maybe 6. So what does that mean? That means that Darrell Luter Jr., Miles Hartsfield, Deshaun Jameson, Ambry Thomas, these guys are going to basically be competing for 1 or 2 spots at most, and that's a good situation. And then guys like Trace Swilling and A.J. Parker, they're more camp body types. But I think this is going to be actually a pretty good area. I know they lose Emmanuel Mosley and they lose Jimmy Ward, and there's a lot of concern because those guys are really good football players. But I think they're pretty good right now with Mooney, Ward, and Lenore on the outside, Oliver in the slot, Luter and Womack as your number 2s on the outside, Hartsfield in the slot, and then your last corner being probably Deshaun Jameson. The guy who I think is going to get squeezed here is Ambry Thomas. I think he's the guy. He's going to be on the outside looking in. It wouldn't be surprising to me if they dealt him or released him because even though he was a third-round pick in his own right, the return ability of Deshaun Jameson, and then obviously Hartsfield was a Steve Wilkes hand-picked guy from Carolina. So you think Hartsfield's got a great shot to make the roster. Oliver is an established player coming in probably to start at the nickel spot in the slot, and then Mooney and Lenore, Luter and Womack. I think they go with Luter, and it's gonna be tough. I mean, I would say Ward, Lenore, Luter, Oliver, Hartsfield, Womack, and Deshaun Jameson would be the 7 guys that I think are really in the mix. And everybody else is probably going to be challenged. But there's always injury potential. So, anyway, just looking at that, there's a battle at kicker. There's a battle at corner. There's going to be a hellacious battle at linebacker. There's going to be a camp battle for sure, whether they bring in a defensive end to supplement what they have or not. There's going to be there's going to be some really good defensive ends or defensive linemen who are cut, who are not on this team this year. Offensive line is going to be a competition on the back end. Wide receiver is going to be a great competition. That's going to be a very interesting tight end battle between the veterans versus the kids. The running back room is stacked as usual. And then the battle royale that we'll talk the most about all summer is Sam Darnold against Trey Lance. So get ready for some really, really good battles in 49er camp. And once again, my winners, Trey Lance at quarterback, for sure. There's no way that Trey Lance doesn't get the quarterback job. I'll go Jordan Mason and Ronald A. Watt at running back. I'll go with the rookies, Latu and Willis over the incumbents at tight end. I'll go with Tay Martin and Ray McLeod to hold off the newcomers at wide receiver. I'll go with Jalen Moore to get the last offensive line spot. So it will be Zakel, Feliciano, Fisher, and Jalen Moore. And then on defense, I'll go with Robert Beal, Kalia Davis, and Spencer Wagey to have the inside track. At linebacker, I'll go with both rookies, D. Winters and Jalen Graham. Somehow, I think they're going to squeeze some of those special teamers off the roster. And on the corner, I'm going to go with Deshaun Jameson and the young kid, Darrell Luter Jr. to make the roster and get those final cornerback spots. So either way, any way you look at this, there are going to be some outstanding competitions this summer in 49er camp. All right, hope you enjoyed our video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueg Show. Check them out in Corte Madera and in Emeryville. And thanks to all of you for supporting the Krueg Show on YouTube.